She stopped to help a stranger, but he was the billionaire haunting her dreams. The streetlights flickered like a scene from a horror movie as Jenna drove through the night. It was late, much later than it should have been, and her heart raced with an odd sense of urgency. Shadows danced across the asphalt, hinting at mysteries lying just beyond the light. Then, out of nowhere, a figure stumbled into the road, his shirt torn, face smeared with dirt and blood. He looked like a ghost from a nightmare. Her instincts screamed at her to keep driving. Yet, there was something magnetic about him, something that pulled her in harder than gravity. He locked eyes with her, his gaze a storm of desperation and fear. Something about him felt eerily familiar. Could it be? No, it couldn't possibly be him, the billionaire she dreamt of every night, the one who haunted her thoughts and captured her every fantasy. Was this just a trick of the mind, or was she losing her grip on reality? As she pulled over, a chill ran down her spine. The man staggered closer, his breath ragged and heavy. "Please help me," he gasped, and in that moment, the world around them fell silent. A car sped by, but the sound felt distant, muffled by the tension thickening in the air. It was just the two of them now, on this deserted road, with whatever fate awaited them. Jenna's fingers trembled as she rolled down the window. The moment their eyes connected again, she felt a flood of recognition washing over her, more intense than before. His icy blue eyes gleamed with a mix of fear and intrigue. "You know me," he murmured, and as those words hung in the air, a million questions crashed in her mind. How could he know her? How could he haunt her dreams in such vivid detail, yet stand before her in this grim reality? Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Do you believe in fate? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jenna stared at him, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Was this chance? Or was something much darker pulling the strings? The questions swirled, threatening to drown her in confusion. He took another step forward, desperation clear in his eyes. She could feel the weight of the world hanging between them, a strange current that buzzed with unspoken possibilities. Suddenly, the air changed. It felt electric, charged with something unknown. He was close now, closer than she ever imagined she would be to someone who seemed to belong in a fantasy. "You have to trust me," he said, his voice raw with honesty. The night deepened around them, wrapping them in shadows that whispered secrets of danger and desire. Just as Jenna opened her mouth to respond, headlights pierced the dark, bright and revealing. What would she do next? Would she pull him in or leave him behind? Jenna's heart raced as the headlights washed over them, illuminating the terrified figure of the man before her. She glanced back at the oncoming vehicle, a looming shadow on the road, and then back at him, the depth of his icy blue eyes piercing through the darkness. He looked almost fragile, like he was a torn piece of paper clinging to life. "Please," he said again, urgency sharpening his features. "You have to get me out of here." Her breath hitched. There was something in his tone. Desperation mixed with an unsettling sincerity. Could she trust him? A rush of adrenaline made her decision for her. "Okay," she exclaimed, throwing the door open. "Get in." As he slid into the passenger seat, the stench of sweat and fear filled her car. The moment the door slammed shut, Jenna's instinct told her she might be crossing a line. This was no ordinary stranger. He was entwined in her dreams, and now he was here alive. A part of her was elated, thrust right into the fantasy of her sleepless nights. But the other part screamed this was madness. "What happened?" she asked, glancing at him as she quickly shifted into gear. The car jolted forward, tires screeching against the asphalt. "I was followed," he panted, gripping the door. "By people who want to hurt me. I thought they lost me." Her heart sank. "Who? Why?" He looked back, his expression a mixture of panic and deep-seated fear. I can't explain it all now. Just, trust me. Please. The road ahead crooked and twisted, illuminated by flickering streetlights that came far too infrequently. All she could think of was the silent night stretching out before them, the weight of his presence feeling both exhilarating and claustrophobic. The headlights of the car that passed flickered in the rearview mirror, far behind, but they didn't dissipate, they were still there. Shadows, or perhaps ghosts of nightmares, that chased them relentlessly. Jenna's stomach twisted in knots. She knew she should drive faster, but the road felt like a trap, like it was bearing down on them. What is your name? Jenna asked, her voice trembling. Liam, he replied, casting a safety-check glance through the back window. He pulled out his phone, fingers trembling, and pressed it to his ear, then threw it down in frustration. No signal that's just perfect. Liam, listen, I need you to tell me what is going on. What did you get yourself into? His mouth tightened, and for a moment, his gaze darted away as if the very question sent waves of fear skimming across his features. It's complicated. I came across something I shouldn't have a deal gone bad. What kind of deal? The kind that involves more than just money. His voice was grave, and the tension in the car thickened as if they had become ensnared in some invisible web. Before Jenna could respond, a car roared up behind them, the bright beams of its headlights blinding her, and the engine aggressively roared as it edged closer. Panic shot through Jenna as she pressed the gas, her heart pounding in sync with the sound of their pursuers. Faster! Liam shouted, a raw urgency lacing his voice. Jenna obeyed, feeling the rapid burn of fear traveling down her spine. They rocketed down the road, but the black vehicle behind them mirrored their movements, its presence growing more ominous by the second. Who are they? Jenna shouted over the rising thrall of adrenaline. They're not going to stop until they have what they want, Liam barked, his eyes wide with raw fear, and in that moment, Jenna realized, the night was only beginning. But why was he worth chasing, and what did they want from him? She could feel the intensity mounting as she drove deeper into the darkness, knowing things were about to escalate in a way she never imagined. Their breaths came heavy, both lost in the storm of uncertainty, but Jenna knew one thing for sure. They were not alone in this night. What awaited them just ahead? The air crackled with tension, the engine's roar drowning out her thoughts. Jenna's grip on the wheel tightened as they sped into the unknown, the black vehicle's headlights like hungry eyes in the rearview mirror. Their relentless pursuit felt like a nightmare clawing at her reality, making her every heartbeat echo with dread. What did you see? What's in that deal? She pressed, glancing at Liam, whose brows knitted tighter by the second, his jaw clenched, and his voice dropped to a whisper. I can't talk about it here. Just know it's bigger than I thought. They'll do anything to protect their secret. His gaze darted back to the mirror, the fear painting his features like a canvas of urgency. Jenna's thoughts raced. She wanted answers, but right now, merely surviving felt like a victory. The road twisted and turned violently up ahead, and the black car continued to follow, gaining speed as if it feasted on their desperation. Hold on! Jenna shouted, turning sharply as she spotted a narrow alley on her left. She swung the wheel hard, her tires screeching as they slid into the dark opening, tires biting into the gravel. The darkness engulfed them, wrapping around like a shroud, the shadows swallowing the car. She could barely see the end of the alley ahead, the remnants of a long-forgotten industrial site filling her vision. Grit and grime became their cover. Jenna pressed the gas, praying the alley would provide some respite. Are we safe? Liam's voice trembled, thick with disbelief, as they rocked to a stop. The engine sputtered momentarily, then fell silent. Not yet. She exhaled, feeling the weight of the moment crush down on her. We need to stay quiet. Jenna glanced through the windshield. The black car skidded to a halt at the alley's mouth, its ominous figure casting a long shadow in the dim light. For a heartbeat, everything froze time. Sound before the muffled sound of doors slamming broke the silence. Two silhouettes emerged from the car, figures cloaked in black, their movements precise and deadly. Jenna's gut dropped. Breaths clamored in her chest, the realization hitting her like a freight train. They were hunters, and they were close. "What do we do?" Liam whispered, his eyes wide, reflecting the panic mirrored in Jenna's heart. "Stay low." Jenna shifted in her seat, her hands shaking. She glanced around for cover, spotting old crates stacked against the wall. "We need to hide." They crouched down, pushing themselves into the small space between the seat and the door, hearts thundering in synchronization. Each footstep outside echoed through the silence, the fear palpable as they held their breaths. Feeling the menace creeping closer, the two figures moved with alarming efficiency. One approached the alley entrance, scanning the darkness. Jenna dared not breathe as her pulse thundered loudly in her ears. She could barely think. They were not hunters for nothing. "Liam, what do they want from you?" Jen mouthed, desperate for answers. But his eyes spoke of things unsaid, a chilling warning. Just then, one of the men called out, his voice a low growl pierced the stillness. "We know you're in there. This doesn't have to end badly." Jenna's throat tightened. What had she gotten herself into? She exchanged a glance with Liam, silently pleading for a way out. The man stepped further into the alley, drawing closer. Jenna's mind raced for a solution, her heart a painful drumbeat. The urge to scream surged within her, but she pushed it back down. They were trapped, cornered without an escape. "Now!" Liam suddenly whispered, grabbing her hand and pulling her towards the opposite side of the car. In one swift motion, they darted out into the shadows. As the other figure turned, swinging his flashlight around, they fled deeper into the darkness of the industrial site, adrenaline overriding the fear that consumed them. Jenna's breaths came in sharp, quick bursts, her mind blanking out all but the intensity of the moment. But as they sprinted through the debris, Jenna's mind raced, piecing together fragments of Liam's story. What was worth all this danger? Why was he the one they sought? Panic clawed at her insides as they ducked behind a mass of metal crates, hidden for now, but for how long? Whatever mystery tied them together felt like it was unraveling, threads of fate weaving tighter as every second passed. And deep down, Jenna knew one harsh truth. They had just entered a game where survival meant understanding the pieces on the board. But where did they go from here? And could she truly trust this man who had stepped out from her dreams and pulled her into a waking nightmare? They could hear footsteps echoing closer. What would come next? Darkness wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. As they crouched behind the metal crates, Jenna's mind raced. The footsteps shifted, echoing closer, relentless like a drum in the dead of night. She leaned against the rough, cold metal, wishing for nothing more than to blur into the shadows. Liam held her hand tightly, his grip like a lifeline. A bead of sweat trickled down her forehead despite the chill of the night. She turned her head slightly, straining to hear the hushed voices that crept between the clatter of their heartbeats. "Search every corner, check the buildings." One of the figures barked, the authority in his voice sending chills prickling down Jenna's spine. "They can't have gone far." "Are you sure it's them?" The second man replied, uncertainty creeping into his tone. "I saw them get into the alley. They're here. They have to be." The first man's voice faded into a growl. Jenna's mind was a whirlpool, each thought dragging her deeper. Who were these men, and what did they want from Liam? The fleeting glimpse of his troubled expression before they had fled back in the alley surged in her memory, the weight of his unspoken secrets pushing against her chest. The answers were just out of reach. "We need to move," Liam whispered urgently, pulling her back to the present. Before she could respond, the sound of rusty metal creaking made her freeze. One of the figures had wandered closer, his flashlight beam dancing dangerously close to their hiding place. Fear constricted her throat, she felt her heart threatening to beat out of her chest. How could they get out of this? Would they really find their way back into the light from this deep into darkness? "Jenna!" Liam urged again, his voice a persistent whisper in her ear, pulling her back from the brink of panic. "On three, we move to that side." He nodded toward the tangle of shadows where the warehouse stood like a looming giant. "Okay," she breathed out, determination blending with fear. They couldn't stay here forever. 1, 2, 3. They darted, plunging into the net of shadows. Every sound amplified, the scrunch of gravel beneath their feet, the pounding of adrenaline in their ears. They reached the warehouse door just as the flashlight swung in their direction. "Did you hear that?" "Shut up, just check it." Panic surged anew as they slipped inside the dimly lit space, the door creaking ominously. It was dark, sparsely illuminated by flickering bulbs hanging like forgotten stars. Jenna could barely make out the shapes of old machinery and crates that lined the walls. Inside, they hurried to the far side and pressed against the cool metal wall, catching their breath. Jenna tried to catch Liam's eye, yearning for direction. But the fear was written all over his face. This was more than just physical danger. Whatever secret he held was the tether anchoring them to this turmoil, and now it threatened to drag them both under. "What do we do now?" Jenna's voice trembled, every word shaking as violently as her body. "They won't give up easy," he replied, his eyes darting, scanning for signs of life. "I need to tell you everything, but we can't have this conversation here." Jenna felt a swirl of frustration. "Then where?" "We need a plan." But Liam's expression shifted suddenly, eyes widening. "The roof. We can access it through here. If we can get up high, we might be able to escape them." "Are you sure?" she replied, doubt pooling in her chest. "We don't have a choice." Before she could protest, Liam moved toward a rusted ladder set against the wall. With a sinking feeling, Jenna followed, her heart pounding as they climbed higher. Each rung creaked ominously. "Stay quiet," he whispered urgently. She nodded, but her mind raced. Would they find safety on the roof, or would they only delay the inevitable? As they reached the rooftop, Jenna felt the cold night air slice through the tension like a knife. But there was little time to celebrate. She could still hear the distant voices of their pursuers below, the threat almost tangible. Suddenly, a crash echoed from inside the warehouse, and Jenna's heart sank. They had found a way in. "We have to go," she gasped, adrenaline snapping her urgency back to life. They sprinted across the rooftop, a flat expanse that seemed to stretch endlessly against the backdrop of the night sky. But where to? Just as she prepared to ask, a soft rustle caught her attention. Liam's body tensed beside her. She followed his gaze, squinting into the dark, and froze. Another figure, someone else on the rooftop, cloaked in shadow. And then, from the depths of darkness, a voice broke the silence. "You two are really in over your heads, aren't you?" Jenna's blood ran cold. Who was this new player, and how did they fit into this twisted game? The questions churned violently as everything felt suspended, breath caught, waiting for the next move. "What do you want?" Jenna's voice came out stronger than she felt, a mix of defiance and fear, trying to mask the tremor in her heart. She stepped slightly in front of Liam, instinctively wanting to protect him. Despite her own terror, the figure remained shrouded in darkness, the glint of his eyes barely visible. "I could ask you the same thing," he replied, his tone smooth, almost mocking. "You're not exactly the local authorities, and this rooftop isn't exactly your fresh air escape." "Enough games," Liam interjected, stepping forward. "Are you with them?" The stranger chuckled softly, the sound slicing through the tension like a blade. "With who? The ones chasing you?" "No. I'm just an observer interested, perhaps." He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. "But trust me, you don't want to stick around for that reunion." Jenna exchanged a glance with Liam. "How do we know we can trust you?" she asked, her voice steadier now, fueled by urgency. "Trust? That's a fragile word in this matter." The man finally moved into the light, revealing a handsome face framed by messy hair. There was something unsettling about his grin, and allure mixed with danger. "I can offer you a way out. But you need to understand something, it won't come without its costs." "Costs?" Jenna felt a surge of doubt mixed with a desperate hope. "What kind of costs?" "You'll have to do something for me. And don't worry, it's not as sinister as it sounds." Before he could finish, another crash resonated from the warehouse below, the sound sharper and closer this time. "They're coming," Liam said, panic starting to creep back into his voice. "Time is ticking." The man glanced over his shoulder, his demeanor changing, eyes sharpening with determination. Listen, if you want to escape, I can get you off this roof and away from those men. But I need you to trust me at least for now. Let me guess, you have a helicopter waiting? Jenna quipped, the sarcasm barely masking her rising anxiety. Something like that. He punctuated the sentence with a grin, nodding as if the whimsy of his words lightened the mood. If you're serious about this, follow me. Liam? Jenna turned to him, seeking his input but finding panic mirrored in his expressions. It might be our only chance, he breathed, eyes darting back to the edges of the rooftop, waiting for shapes to emerge from below. As the words slipped from her lips, it hit Jenna with a gut-wrenching realization. She was teetering on the edge of a monumental decision. This man was enigmatic, but the alternative was clearer and far more dangerous. Let us go, she whispered, heart racing, torn between fear and necessity. They needed an escape. The stranger led them to a narrow access door on the side, nearly camouflaged against the building's towering wall. Trust me, I'll get you to safety or at least far from here. Sweat beaded on her brow as they slipped through the door, descending a narrow staircase with every creak reverberating ominously. Jenna could almost feel the eyes of their pursuers scanning the rooftops above, hunting for any sign of life. Each step felt louder than the last, amplifying the dread that gripped her insides. Finally, they reached a basement-level pitch black, save for the flickering light from a distant bulb. A vehicle awaited, an unmarked black SUV, engine already running and somehow feeling hostile even before they stepped inside. Get in. The man urged, his voice firm and authoritative. Jenna hesitated, casting one last glance behind them, half expecting a wild encounter with their pursuers. Now. Liam yanked her forward, urgency ripping through his tone. They climbed inside, and the heavy door slammed shut, sealing them in a bubble of uncertainty. Jenna's heart raced, the air thick with tension. As the vehicle surged forward, leaving the warehouse behind, that same question echoed louder in her mind. What had she just agreed to? The stranger glanced back at them, amusement lighting his eyes. You both really have no idea what you're getting into, do you? And then the SUV turned sharply into the night, slipping away into the unknown, leaving Jenna to wonder if they just gambled more than their lives. What secrets awaited them outside this darkness? The vehicle sped through the winding city streets, the headlights slicing through shadows that danced like specters on the walls of the buildings. Jenna's fingers trembled as they clenched the seat beneath her. The stranger, whose name still eluded her, was silent now, eyes focused on the road, a mask of confidence that only deepened her anxiety. What is your name? Liam finally asked, breaking the suffocating quiet. Call me Jace, the man replied, still keeping his gaze straight ahead. The name felt as enigmatic as he was, a flicker of personality hidden in the middle of this chaotic escape. Jenna swallowed hard. Jace, what are you really involved in? Why are you helping us? His eyes flicked toward her for a brief moment before returning to the street. Let us just say there are forces larger than you realize in play. And your predicament caught my attention. But I assure you, my motives are not entirely selfish. A knot twisted in Jenna's stomach. Not selfish? Someone's out to get us. Panic crept back into her voice. And you think we should just trust you? Trust is a luxury in situations like these. Jace's voice turned cold as the air in the SUV thickened. You're lucky to even have this option. The men chasing you aren't just any pursuers, they're relentless. And they won't stop until they find you. Jenna exchanged a worried glance with Liam, his face pale, the gravity of their plight washing over them both like a cold wave. What do they want? Liam asked, his voice slightly shaky. Answers, Jace replied curtly. And you two hold the key. A chill coursed through Jenna at his words. She felt like a pawn on a chessboard, manipulated by unseen hands. The SUV veered onto a less traveled road, illuminated by the harsh glow of streetlights, taking sharp corners that left Jenna gripping the edge of her seat. An uneasy silence kindled within her. She felt trapped, not just in the vehicle, but in a maze of tangled loyalties and unspoken truths. Where are we going? Liam asked, clearly wrestling with the same fatigue and fear gnawing at Jenna's insides. Somewhere safe, at least temporarily. Jace's tone didn't let any room for questions, though Jenna had 1,000 of them clamoring for attention. Why had he come to them? What could he possibly gain from their danger? They rounded a corner, suddenly hitting a traffic jam. Jace slammed on the brakes, the SUV lurching as it decelerated abruptly. The tension snapped through the air, and Jenna felt a surge of panic. What now? She breathed, looking toward the windshield where headlights danced like fireflies on a dark canvas. Stay down. Jace hissed, his voice dripping with urgency. Jenna's heart raced as she obeyed, ducking low into her seat, panic growing. She could hardly breathe, the fabric of her shirt damp with sweat. Liam followed her lead, their shared fear weaving an invisible bond tighter in this claustrophobic moment. Through the thin space between the seats, Jenna caught sight of figures moving outside the vehicle, whispering, their shadows merging with the night. Her chest tightened, visions of the men that had pursued them looping in her mind, shadows darker than fears, hunting with insatiable greed. What are they doing? She whispered, straining to hear. Waiting, Jace muttered, barely audible. His dark eyes fixed on the street ahead, the tension of a coiled spring palpable. Just waiting for us to slip up. Jenna felt her heart thump loudly, each beat echoing her dread. It was a waiting game, one they hadn't signed up for. Every second lingered like a heavy weight in the air, suffocating and unyielding. Then, without warning, Jace shifted his weight, ready to act. We need to move. His voice rang out, urgency slicing through the fear like a knife. Jenna's breath caught. And just as they were about to bolt, a figure loomed closer, a ghost out of their past, turning the whole game on its head. What had Jenna overlooked that could unravel everything? Would they really be able to escape this? Jenna's eyes widened as the figure stepped into the chaotic glow of the headlights. It was a face she recognized all too well, a face that haunted her thoughts, a ghost from a time when life felt manageable. Is that? Liam's voice quavered, disbelief mingling with fear. Yes, Jenna replied, a mix of dread and recognition flooding her. It's Mark. Mark was a former classmate and the last person she ever expected to see again, especially not in such a fraught moment. He'd been charming once, full of promise and ambition, but time had tempered him into a darker silhouette filled with questions that went unanswered. Jenna recalled the way he smiled, an easy confidence that had sometimes made her heart race. But now? Now it felt like an omen. Jace's expression hardened, his grip on the steering wheel tightening visibly. This isn't good, he muttered, barely contained fury barely hidden beneath the surface. He shouldn't be here. What do you mean? Jenna stammered, the realization that maybe Mark was not just an old friend, but a potential threat creeping over her like cold water. Do you know him? Yes, and he knows about you, Jace replied, his voice low and urgent. We can't afford distractions, especially not now. He could blow your cover. What cover? Jenna snapped back, frustration bubbling over. Focus. Jace retorted, his voice tinged with desperation. A heartbeat later, he shifted the SUV into gear, and the roar of the engine sliced through the heavy air. But it was too late. Mark had spotted them, his eyes narrowing, shadowed in the streetlight that in a swift motion. Mark raised a hand and gestured for them to stop, his demeanor suddenly calm as he stepped closer. Jenna. Liam. Thank goodness I found you. His voice held an eerie mix of relief and something darker, an undercurrent of intent that made Jenna's skin crawl. Jenna exchanged a glance with Liam, uncertainty clouding their thoughts. Should they trust him? Or was he just another piece in a larger, terrifying puzzle? Jace's voice broke through her thoughts. We're not stopping. But he is a friend. Jenna protested, her heart racing. He can help us. Help? Jace shot back, and Jenna could see the tension burning in his eyes. He can put you right in their crosshairs. Trust me, Jenna. Time to go. Jenna felt torn. She wanted to believe in Mark, to see him as the old friend he once was. But time had passed, and shadows had deepened. Mark, what are you doing here? She called out, trying to bridge the distance between them. Look, I came to help, Mark replied, but Jenna sensed the lie beneath the surface. He stepped closer still, his face an uncertain mixture of concern and something darker, something predatory. Just let me explain. Get down. Jace roared, and the moment pulsed with an urgent energy, thrumming like a live wire. Before Jenna could process his words, Jace lunged into action, spinning the wheel to the left. The SUV swerved abruptly away from the menacing gaze of Mark, who now looked less like a friend and more like a pawn in this lethal game. Everything seemed to slow. The tires screeched against the pavement, discordant in the thick air, each turn pushing Jenna deeper into panic. Jace floored the accelerator, and the world outside blurred. Hold on. He shouted. Jenna gripped the door handle, breath quickening, heart hammering in her chest. They sped away from Mark, but what if he had already called for help? Where are we going? Liam asked, his voice a mixture of excitement and dread. Somewhere they can't track us, Jace said, determination seeping through his eyes. But as Jenna risked a glance back, fear gripped her. Mark was still staring after them, a shadow blending into the dark. The implications twisted her gut. Had they really escaped? Or had they simply stepped deeper into danger, trading one threat for another? Jace, do you trust me? She found herself asking in a whisper. Not until I know everything. But how could she share it all? What was hidden within her past that would shake the foundations of their escape? And in that moment, as darkness closed in, Jenna knew. There was no turning back. The question lingered a daunting weight. What would the truth unravel? Roads blurred as Jace pressed the gas pedal harder, the engine roaring like a wild animal. Jenna felt the urgency pulsing through the vehicle, matching the frantic rhythm of her heart. They were racing away from Mark, but his gaze lingered in her mind, a ghost that refused to fade. Where are we going? Liam asked, gripping his seat, his eyes wide with fear. Anywhere but here, Jace replied sharply, his focus unwavering. We need to put distance between us and him. With every twist and turn of the darkened highway, Jenna's thoughts spiraled. Mark's sudden appearance felt too orchestrated, too calculated. Memories of their past seeped back: school dances, laughter, promises that felt far removed from the present danger, and yet, she had felt a flicker of hope at the thought of seeing a familiar face. A face that was supposed to represent safety, not danger. Had she been naive? Jace, she started, her voice trembling as she attempted to process the uneasy whirlwind in her mind. What does Mark know about me? More than I want him to, Jace said tersely, glancing at her for a brief moment before returning his gaze to the road. You need to understand he's not who you remember. He's tangled up in this mess with us. Fear gnawed at her insides, making her feel hollow. So you know him, and he's dangerous? No, he's not dangerous. He's connected. And those connections are exactly what we can't afford right now. Then why was he looking for us? Jenna shot back, frustration pulling at her. What could he possibly want? I don't know, Jace admitted, the weight of worry edging into his tone. But he was watching you. That's all that matters. It means we're exposed. The words hung in the air, heavy and threatening. Exposed. She shivered at the thought. Deep down, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was more than just an old classmate. He was a player in a game she didn't fully understand. Just as the tension peaked, Jace turned off the main road into a dimly lit side street. Jenna's heart raced anew at the abrupt change. Where was he taking them? Is this safe? She asked, searching the surroundings as they rolled to a stop. Shadows loomed around them, hiding secrets in the nooks and crannies. It's the best I can do for now, Jace replied. He put the car in park and took a deep breath, exhaling slowly as if trying to release the weight of the moment. We'll regroup here. Liam glanced nervously out the window. What do we do if he finds us? We wait and we listen, Jace instructed, his voice steady. We might have time to get a plan, but we need to figure out what Mark wants. Until then, we stay put. Jenna's breath hitched. Mark's face replayed in her mind like a broken record, the calm look pierced by a hidden intent. Something in her gut warned her that sitting ducks could easily become prey. "We can't stay here forever," she said, uncertainty creeping back in. "We'll move when it's safe." "Just trust me," Jace said, but his eyes betrayed him. There was fear there too. As silence settled around them, the reality of their situation pressed down heavily. Thoughts churned in Jenna's mind. What lay ahead could change everything, but she had to face it. Whatever was coming, they would need to confront it together. The weight of unspoken truths loomed, and Jenna knew she had to prepare herself for the big reveal. Then the sound of footsteps caught her attention, sharp in the stillness. Footsteps from outside. Jenna's eyes widened, her breath stopping mid-exhale. Had he found them already? With every beat of her racing heart, she turned her head slowly toward the sound, dread pooling in her stomach. What would happen if Mark was right outside? And just like that, Jenna knew whatever happened next, it would ultimately decide their fate. Jenna held her breath, her heart pounding in time with the footsteps. They crept closer, each sound intensifying the knot in her stomach. She could feel Jace tense beside her, his body coiled like a spring ready to snap. "Stay quiet," he hissed, glancing at Liam. The boy's eyes were wide, darting between them like a frightened rabbit. Outside, the footfall pattered against the pavement, muffled but unmistakable. An ominous shadow danced across the windshield, blocking the sparse light filtering through the trees. Panic surged through Jenna as she squinted, trying to make out the form. What if it was Mark? What did he want? "Please don't let it be him," she whispered, the words escaping her trembling lips. Jace leaned forward, peering out through the windshield, his breath shallow. Jenna felt heat radiating from him, the urgency and tension vibrating through the cramped space. Suddenly, a figure stepped fully into view. A man, tall with dark hair and a familiar posture. Jenna's stomach dropped. "That's Mark," she choked out, fighting against the instinct to bolt. "Keep quiet," Jace snapped, pushing down on the ignition button to turn off the car's dim lights. They were shadows in the dark, he hoped that would keep them hidden. Just then, Mark moved closer, scanning the area like a predator searching for prey. Jenna could see his expression tense and determined. The memories flooded back, every joke they shared, every secret they whispered in the dark corners of school hallways, now twisted into something sinister. "Jenna, I know you're in there," Mark called out, his voice steady but laced with an unsettling calm. "I'm not here to hurt you." She tightened her grip on the edge of her seat. "He knows we're in here," she whispered to Jace, whose jaw clenched tight. "Don't respond." He snapped again, voice low. Mark took a step closer, peering into the windows as if he could see right through the metal and glass. "I can help you. Just come out. We can sort this out together." "What does he mean?" Liam whispered, shaking slightly next to her. For a moment, Jenna didn't answer. What could he possibly mean? "Together?" she repeated, daring to look at the boy beside her. "What does that even mean?" "Nothing good, I'm sure," Jace muttered under his breath. The words hung heavily in the air, heavy and foreboding. Jenna felt trapped in a web of lies and danger. Mark's presence in her life had become a dark cloud, ever looming, and now he was threatening to engulf her completely. "Please, Jenna," Mark's voice broke through the tension, softer now. "You know I'm not your enemy." His eyes searched for a connection, something, anything between them. Jenna wanted to believe him, if only for a fleeting moment. But that flicker of trust ignited the danger. It could hurt them all. "Jace, what do we do?" she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "Stay calm, keep still," he replied, eyes fixed on Mark. "He's just trying to get a reaction. Don't give him one." But Mark wasn't giving up. "If you run, you'll regret it. This isn't just about the three of us anymore," he said, anger rising. "There are bigger forces at play." "Bigger forces?" Liam choked, his wide eyes mirroring Jenna's concern. Jace rolled his shoulders back, preparing for whatever was coming next. He knew they couldn't stay here, not while Mark was outside. But moving meant risking everything, and any plan that involved encountering Mark again felt like inviting disaster. As Mark paced a few steps away and scuffed his foot against the asphalt, Jenna drew in a shaky breath, dread pooling deep within her gut, realizing that the illusion of safety they clung to was nothing but a thin veil. "Whatever's coming, we need to know," she pressed, her voice low but firm. "What do you mean, bigger forces?" Mark paused, his shadow stretching toward them, eyes narrowing. "I'll tell you everything. But you have to trust me first." In that moment, Jenna understood they stood on the edge of something colossal. The world they once knew teetered on the brink of chaos. Could they trust him? Could she even trust herself? "Jace, we have to make a choice." "Now," Jenna said, her pulse quickening, a mix of fear and resolve pushing her forward as Mark's eyes locked back onto hers. The air charged with tension, promising change, and every instinct screamed that they were about to cross a line they could never uncross. What waited on the other side? Would they choose to confront the truth, connecting with a past they could no longer escape? As Mark shifted closer, he'd made his intentions clear. The shadows could not be trusted, and it might be time to step into the light or run. The engine's silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket, saturated with tension. Jenna's heart hammered against her chest, each beat echoing the monumental decision before her. Outside, Mark's figure loomed, uncertainty cloaking him like a second skin. Could he really help them, or would he unravel everything in a world already mixed with secrets and half-truths? Trust him? Jace's voice cut through her thoughts, low and determined. "You can't be serious. We don't know what kind of game he's playing." Mark's eyes narrowed, his expression shifting from determination to something softer, a hint of desperation. "I'm not the enemy, Jenna," he called out, his tone pleading. "You need to see this for what it is. You're lost in something you don't understand." Lost? Jenna felt the weight of his words. Was she? Following Liam down this dark alleyway had felt instinctive, but where had that instinct led her? "Jenna, this isn't safe," Jace whispered urgently, his eyes scanning the shadows for movement. "We need to get out of here." Her pulse quickened. What if he's right? What if there's something bigger at play? "Stop thinking with your heart," Jace replied tersely, but his voice softened, revealing a hint of concern beneath his firm resolve. "We need a plan, not distractions." "Then help me understand." Jenna shot back, the fear in her tone undeniable. "Mark!" she shouted, her voice ringing out over the distance. "What do you know?" Stepping closer, Mark held up his hands, as if surrendering to the possibility of their safety. "I know you both are being hunted. And I know what those men want. You think it's just about Liam." He paused, eyes darting, and the air thickened with his next words. "It's about both of you. You're tied to something far larger." "What are you talking about?" Liam blurted, fear bubbling at the edges of his voice. Mark glanced over his shoulder, his pace hesitant but unwavering. "They're not just after Liam's past, they want Jenna too. You don't realize what you both stumbled into." Jenna's heart clenched again, the reality of his words dangled like a sword above their heads. "What do you mean?" she pressed, trying to seek clarity through the fog of fear. "The deal he was involved in, it was just a pawn in a much larger game," Mark explained. "You were both being groomed for something. A power struggle that's been brewing for years." And just like that, the pieces began to fit together, no longer random bits of confusion but a threatening tapestry of secrets painted in shades of betrayal. Jenna felt a knot of dread twist in her gut. "And you know what this power is?" "I do," Mark affirmed, his expression shifting, a mix of regret and determination. "But you have to trust me if you want to get out of this." As Jenna's mind raced, grappling with Mark's revelations, Jace leaned closer, urgency lacing his voice. "Do you believe him?" Jenna hesitated, heart rifting apart as the weight of choices pressed upon her. Trust had never felt so precarious, yet she needed answers. "Let us hear him out," she said finally, glancing at Jace, seeking his agreement. "Just until we know if he's lying." "Fine," Jace replied, frustration in his tone but understanding in his eyes. But keep your guard up. Mark's expression brightened, a flicker of hope in his gaze. They're coming for you both. The sooner you understand the stakes, the sooner we can fight back. Jenna's resolve firmed as she took a breath, anticipation charging the air. What do we do? First, we need to get out of this car and find somewhere safe to hide, Mark instructed. Then we can come up with a plan to reveal what they're after, the truth that ties us all together. Outside, the sounds of footsteps echoed, distant but drawing nearer, a reminder that the window for safety was narrowing. Jace turned the keys back in the ignition, heart racing. On 3, we slip out. Keep low and stick together. Okay, Jenna whispered, adrenaline buzzing through her veins as the weight of impending chaos loomed. 1, 2, 3. They burst from the vehicle, a dash into the shadows as the world around them crackled with danger. Each step brought them closer to potential freedom, or perhaps further entanglement. As they hurried into the darkness of the alley, Jenna's breath caught in her throat. For the first time since this wild ride began, she felt the threads of fate pulling taut, each moment leading them toward an inevitable intersection of choices they could never escape. Stay close, Mark insisted, urgency woven tightly with each word as they darted behind a nearby dumpster, two figures dimly illuminated by a streetlight above, hiding in the depths of their fears. They could hear the low rumble of voices nearby, growing louder. Do what I say, and we can shake them off, Mark said, glancing over his shoulder, his expression fixed. Trust me, I've been where you are now. Then tell us what we need to know, Jenna pressed, her heartbeat like a war drum, ready for battle. I will, he promised, voice low. But we have to move now if we want any chance of surviving. With that, they began to make their way deeper through the shadows, Jenna caught between panic and an odd semblance of hope as they pushed further from danger. The world, dark and daunting, lay ahead, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, this was where her story began anew. A chance to fight back against the shadows of their pasts. As they disappeared into the night, Jenna glanced back once, feeling the weight of their decisions hanging in the balance. They were in a game with dangerous stakes, ripped from normalcy and thrust into a night they might never escape. But with every step forward, she felt the flicker of courage spark deep within her, ready to take on whatever lurked beyond. It was now or never. That thought rallied the resolve in her heart. And then, a voice whispered in her mind this was their moment to seize. But would they be brave enough to face the truth? Now, here is where you come in. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss more heart-pounding stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm the boost it needs. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you, true fans. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Every action helps this community grow. Let us do this together.